5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Welcome.
Ahoy, friends. It's me, Dave Landau. After a long night on stage, I like to kick back with a captain's hat and a fine cigar and watch the Dennis and Andy show. These guys are huge nerds, but they're the kind that you actually want to hang out with. Enjoy them. I do.
Sense them coming.
Keep your eyes peeled.
They're here.
Ready the spear!
They won't get past us.
Well, hello, everybody. It is Wednesday afternoon at 3:30. And you know what that means. It's the Dennis and Andy show, but don't adjust your tuner, old school. Dennis is not here. Unfortunately, he passed on to a different city with some friends of his that are in town to on a little vacation. So Rich was kind enough to fill in.
Again.
I mean, I guess I was kind enough to have you back after last week.
That's one way to look at it.
Yeah, I mean, you had some issues, you know.
I passed wind. It was live. I'm sorry. I apologize. Can we just let it go?
You and Eric Swalwell just ripping them on the live stream. No, it wasn't that. It was the whole. We like to start the show with this one major question for a guest. Dennis will rattle off 8, but I have faith in you, and you rattled off 4.
I tried to remember all of Dennis's questions, and I couldn't because there's so many.
There's just one. There's only one, Rich.
Too many.
Just one, my friend. Just one.
Can't do it.
This is why. Put the bottle down. Stop drinking during the show. Oh, my God. And none of us believe that that's lemonade.
Gosh.
Guys, we got a super chat already. $4.99 from Dr. Mask, Retro Elixir. What's up, buddy? Thank you. I just want to say thanks again for helping me launch and fund my first comic. You guys rock. Fulfillment starts in a few weeks. Dude, no problem. You're very welcome. And have fun with fulfillment. It's a joy. So there you go. So yes, we have a great guest today. Very exciting. Rich, I don't know about you, but when I was growing up, besides reading comics, I was kind of a motorhead. You know, I was always into cars. I got Hot Rod magazine when I was
magazine.
10, 11 years old.
Yeah.
You know, and then one day at the bookstore, I ran across something that combines both my loves, comics and hot rods.
I don't think I've ever seen that magazine before.
Are you serious?
Yeah. I did not see those growing up. That's not something I ever encountered.
Wow. Well, I mean, our guests can tell us. I assume they got good distribution. I grew up in Maryland. There's a UK price on the cover. So, but I pulled these 3 because I still have all the ones I bought, which is a pretty good stack. But I pulled these 3 because these have strips in them by our guest. And for those that don't know, it was kind of like a Mad magazine, except it was all car-based stuff. They had a great section. I think it was every month, 2 or 3 pages on how to draw certain cars and stuff in this really cool cartoony way. And I fell in love with it. And I think some of them remember back then they had the pull out iron-ons and like magazines and stuff.
Oh, really?
Be like, hey mom, iron this onto my t-shirt for me.
Yeah. And there was for those old enough to remember it in the 70s in particular, iron-on transfer t-shirt shops were pretty common in malls. You'd go in there and there'd be a wall of designs and you'd pick out, I want the number 89. And a lot of them had that, graffiti, Motorhead, like Rat Fink cartoon
Yeah.
type characters on them. Yeah, so that would have been really cool.
Yeah. And the funny thing is, Concord Mills, the big mall by us, I want to say, I don't know if it's still there because I don't get up there as often, but when we first moved here, which is 20 years ago now, they still had a t-shirt store like that where you walked in and the back wall was just back side walls, just full of designs. And then they had pre-printed ones, of course, but if you wanted, you could just pick. And then I think you could take your own, like on a zip drive or a thumb drive, if it was like a PNG file, so there's no background to it, because I'm pretty sure that's how I got First Man shirt done originally.
That's a pretty good option. I like that. Yeah.
But then fast forward to my adult age in the year 2020, and I go into a Barnes and Noble.
What? A bookstore?
And I see this. And I'm immediately transported back to Walden Books. Good old Walden Books.
I love me some Walden Books.
That or Crown. Did you have Crown down here?
No, but Walden Books, I could go in there and disappear for 2 or 3 hours. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's because you'd go in and then some stranger would be like, I got candy, little boy, in the back.
And then we went to the bathroom and it took like a couple of hours. But
right. So anyhow, I saw this and I was like, are you kidding me? This is back? And I picked it up and I'm flipping through it and I get to this 2-page story right here with General Delivery. And I was like, holy shit, that is my favorite freaking car from my childhood. Dennis and I did a show a while ago, basically just talking about what's your favorite car from your childhood, TV show, cartoon, doesn't matter. Yeah. Mine was the General Lee. His was, I think, Knight Rider.
No Mach 5 love?
I got a Mach 5 behind me, the 12-inch size die-cast, but generally first. Made in America, that's why. So I had to buy this. And then who would think that doing an interview with Chuck Dixon a few weeks ago about his project, 7 Deadly Sinners.
Deadly Sinners, yeah.
He would say, and I'm working with Bob Hardin, and I'm like, that's cool. That name rings a bell. And he goes, yeah, Cartoons Magazine. And I'm like, what?
Whoa.
Hold the phone. That I would be able to meet somebody whose stuff I was reading when I was a teenager. And I told Chuck, I said, you got to hook us up with an intro email. I want that guy on the show to talk to. And lo
and behold.
So without further ado, and he's still in the back room. You apparently did not offend him enough to make him go away.
There's still time in the show.
There's a lot of time for you to do that. So what's up, Bob?
Hey, you guys are already cracking me up.
We try to entertain during the day for the people at work that are like, oh, it's hump day. I just want this week to be over. It's the DNA show at 3:30. I'll just sneak this in. My boss won't catch me.
People like Marcus who are at work watching.
And don't forget, it's driver. April Fools. Don't forget it's April Fool's, so I don't have to tell the truth about anything, right?
That's true. You don't.
That can get interesting.
Yeah, that's true. Like, for instance, you're drinking alcohol right now. Or are you?
Yes. Absolutely not.
I hear you. Well, Bob, man, dude, seriously, it's great to have you. Like I said, no exaggeration. When I found out all that stuff from Chuck, as soon as we were done at the show, I went because I got the magazines just right back here, easily available. And I just pulled them out and I'm going, I know I got some Bob stuff and I found that stuff from the 80s. And then I do have a few issues of the new one, but this one especially, it's just weird. Like that is just, it's weird who you meet in this business and then the connections and stuff, whether it be through a fan like I was at the time. And now I'm, doing it for a living and going, holy crap.
It's actually, first of all, thanks for having me on.
Oh yeah.
It's actually really rare that someone in the comic book industry knows what cartoons is. I have to always describe it as an automotive mad magazine, and then they kind of remember maybe their grandparents had one of the original copies of one of the issues. But yeah, you don't hear about it, so it's nice to hear about it.
That's weird, man. Like I mean, I wouldn't say that. Well, Rich is a good example. You just said you never even heard of it until prepping for the show today.
Yeah, I read it. It started before I was born. It was like late 50s, early 60s.
Oh, wow.
I was born in 60. Obviously wasn't reading comics yet, but once I got to high school, then when Peterson Publishing owned it, they were able to promote it because they had money from all their other automotive magazines, which I still believe they have. So you see it everywhere. It was a regular newsstand thing, and often it was right near Mad Magazine and other comics. But it's not as visible now. You have to kind of know, or have someone tell you it's there and then search it out.
So wait, Peterson, did they do like Hot Rod and stuff like that?
Yeah. That Hot Rod, Carcraft, Sports Car Graphic.
Man, I bought all
There must have been at least 4, maybe 5 comic book style automotive humor magazines at one point. Yeah. Yep. They had Ed Roth, Big Daddy Roth comic. I call them comics, but they're all magazine format.
Yeah.
Like cartoons. They had one called Hot Rod Cartoons, and they had cartoons at both the same time.
And then I guess cartoons was the one that lasted, kind of outlasted all the other ones.
Yeah.
Because I don't think I ever saw any of the other ones.
I wish I would have known we were going to venture into this. I could have held up some copies, but
that's okay.
Yeah. Basically they were all kind of the same anyway.
Yeah, I imagine so. I mean, I'm sure there was a lot of overlap with the artists working on them too.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. That's weird. I mean,
Alex Toth got his start in cartoons.
Really?
Oh, okay. So I've got an Alex Toth book called
yeah,
I can't remember the title, but it's all his
same one too. I can't think of the name of it.
Is it On the Road?
Yeah, that's his cartoon stuff. Cartoons Magazine and Hot Rod Cartoons.
Oh, no shit. See, I didn't know. I mean, I'm sure I've had that book forever. So probably when I first read it, I'm sure there's captions that say what it's from, and I just forgot. But yeah, I love that stuff. Anyhow, before we go any further, okay, Rich, take 2 from last week. Are you prepared? Do you have the script with the introductory question we like to use, starting off with the new guest, so our watchers can get to know?
Yes. As our guest today, can you give us your origin story? How did you get into comics, and do you remember your first comic book?
Good job.
Excellent question. That's a tough one.
In fact,
let guest respond.
Hold on.
Yeah, guest responded. I'm going to say it was Mad. And honestly, I don't know if it was the Mad magazine. It was probably the early 70s, or it could have been one of the Mad paperbacks.
Okay.
I don't know if that qualifies as a comic, but as you know, it was just reprints of the magazine in the paperback.
Yeah, it does. Sure.
And superhero stuff. I think my dad, the second time he took me for a haircut back when I had hair, they used to have racks of comic books in the barber shop. And I kind of remember, to this day, I wish I still had it. It was some issue of Batman. It wasn't, I know it was a DC Batman book, but I don't remember which one.
Okay.
That's funny. The guest last week also mentioned reading comics at the barber shop, if I remember right.
Yeah, he did.
And I know when I was a little kid, the old school barber shop, they had the comics sitting on a little table by the side.
Ours didn't.
Yeah.
Dude, ours didn't. The one that my dad took my brother and I to, and it was, like you said, quote unquote, old school barber shop. It had that, candy cane looking thing out front.
Yeah.
And it was just a bare bones barber shop. It had like 4 chairs in it. And, we're talking 80s, late 70s, 80s. I don't remember ever seeing a comic in there.
Wow, you missed out.
Yeah, I guess they were primarily for keeping the kids calm, because I remember other kids crying. I just kind of sat there, but
I don't know about you guys, but
it was
my
traumatic
dad,
for some.
my dad and mom, I guess until we could drive and go take care of getting our haircut ourselves. When we were like, 10, probably up till I'd say 13 or 14, they let us have some say in how we wanted our haircut. But when we were like, below 10 and 10, it was their choice how our hair was cut.
Yeah.
And I mean, there were times my brother and I would walk out of there
It was buzz cut.
almost in tears because of what they did.
Yeah.
Randy says 7 Deadly Sinners closed. I think the live campaign ended March 27th. I believe you can still get it, but some options have been pulled down from the live campaign. I think that's how it works.
Oh, you know more than I do then.
Well, I asked Chuck about it, and that's
okay.
I'm pretty sure that's what he told me. So I think you can still go get it. But anyhow, so I'm assuming just because of, the type of work you do and stuff, you didn't really turn into like a comic book collector. You were more along the lines of like Mad Magazine and stuff growing up. Is that about right? Or
as far as what I wanted to do?
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
I kind of, the Mad Magazine stuff kind of gravitated me to cartoons. I like the format of it. And I actually, when I was younger, cartoons, at least the original entity, it was kind of edgy. It was, I'm not going to say it was full blown underground.
Yeah.
But it wasn't, I don't think some of it was kind of family friendly thinking back, but
really,
so that kind of set me off on the path of doing more niche market things and not mainstream superheroes for sure. More, I gravitated then towards all the Warren books. I had a subscription to Creepy, Eerie, Vampirella, all the black and white books. That was my passion.
Was that to seek out more? Was that to see more Jack Davis stuff? Because
it seemed like everywhere I went, he would just be showing up doing things. I don't think he was a regular for Warren, but he'd have some pages in there occasionally for advertisements or something.
What was there's one cover that he did. So, once again, growing up, I knew Jack Davis, but I only knew the humor stuff, but then I don't think I even discovered the more, you could say, realistic type army stuff he did before the humor stuff for like EC. I don't think I even discovered that until the 90s. So I was already a professional and I was like, what? Jack Davis did other stuff that wasn't like humor?
Yeah,
and there's this one cover. It's not, EC had so many different titles. I can't remember the title, but I remember the image, and it was of this guy diving down in the water, and it was a full figure shot of the guy. It was a back shot of the guy, and he was just, he had like the scuba mask on, the snorkel, and then just, briefs or whatever. And I think there was some tentacled monster or something, but the rendering that Jack did on this figure was just awesome.
Yeah.
It was, and it's all brush. Did you ever meet Jack Davis?
He was a guest speaker at my Kubert School graduation. And, I spoke briefly with him. He signed a couple things for me. He was really nice. Big, tall guy. I think he was from down your way, like one of the Carolinas or maybe Georgia.
I think Georgia, because he designed, is it the Georgia Bulldog? He designed the logo.
Is that
because I was
going red and white?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I met him. This is probably 18, 19 years ago for the Southeast chapter of the National Cartoonist Society. We all took a trip to SCAD in Georgia, in Savannah. And Jack was there. Nick Meglin was there. and that's where I met both of those guys. And I mean, Jack was just the nicest guy. I mean, he had to be in his 90s at this point.
Yeah.
But yeah, just such a nice guy. Couldn't tell you about the height because I think he was a little bent over at the time. Did you ever have Tex? You had Tex Blaisdell as a teacher, right?
Oh yeah. Yep.
It's the same thing. Well, I don't know about when you went to the Keyword
He was
school,
pretty. He was pretty upright when we had him, and when I met Jack just that one time, that was 1981. He was standing upright.
Yeah, when I had Tex, he wasn't upright, so he was bent over. Now, when he stood upright, he would tower over me. But so anyhow, getting that because we kind of jumped forward. So you ended up. How did you discover the Keyword School?
My senior year of high school, I went to high school in Denville, New Jersey.
Yep.
We were able to take vocational classes our senior year. So I spent half a day taking a commercial art class in a different location in town. And Joe, and I forget if he brought someone with him or not, but apparently Joe was close to the commercial art instructor. And Joe came in and did a talk about the school. And I didn't know it was like 1 or 2 towns over where I've lived most of my life. So it was definitely on the list of options. I think my parents probably wanted me to go to like an academic type art school where you get a degree and actually get real jobs.
Oh, sure.
But I wanted to go to the Kubert School. It was just as it is now. It was primarily comic books and nothing but. There were some advertising classes, but it's still, I think, considered the only one of its kind.
Well, when you went, so I'm guessing when you went, they didn't. So when I went in '88, after your first year, you chose whether you want to do cartoon illustration or animation for your second and third year, and you split off.
We did not have that option. The animation program was brand new, and that started, it may have been going on my third year, and just being there for a third year was new. That was brand new also. But I didn't choose to take that.
Right.
I stuck on the path that I was doing. Looking back, maybe it would have been cool to take that part of it. You couldn't take both, right?
No.
No.
And I kind of wish, even if you still, like, I have no idea how it is now, but I kind of wish instead of splintering off, well, they still do the splinter off, but if you didn't take animation as, say, your major for second and third year, you had like one class that kind of covered animation, right? And then the same thing, if you chose animation, you had one class that covered, the majority, like sequential storytelling, whatever, right? So you still got some of it because, like I was telling, this was a conversation with the guest we had last week who does do storyboards and animation. I was like, I've learned a lot about animation and stuff like that and cartooning after I graduated from books like Preston Blair and, just basically cartooning type books. Whereas at the Kubert School, don't get me wrong, I love my experience there, but I was so singularly focused on wanting to draw comics and in a certain way that if there was a teacher that basically even had an assignment like, okay, we want you to do, all right, here's an assignment, but we want it done in a cartoony Bigfoot type style. And this is how you do it. I think that would have been kind of cool, but like I said, it is, I had 3 years there. I loved it. Joe was great. I'm assuming you had, I'll name teachers and I'm going to guess you had them. Hi Eisman, lettering.
Yeah. Might have had him for basic drawing too. Cause I remember a class where he would put tracing paper over your work and just completely shame you and make it look so much better.
Oh, he did that to us, but we only had him for a lettering class, but he would still do that.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I'd have to ask one of my classmates But I swear there was another class where he actually would draw.
Oh, that's cool. What about well, I'm sure Erwin Haysom, was he there at the time?
Yep, Irwin and Tex.
Jose Delbo, was he there yet?
No.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
So
I know
Jose.
who he is because I hear
Yeah.
other instructors talking about him, but he wasn't
Oh,
there.
okay.
We had Ben Ruiz. Did you have him for figure drawing?
I was going to ask you who your figure draw. Yes, we had Ben.
Yeah.
Ben was dude, that guy was a character.
Yeah, absolutely.
I've told this story before, but in one of the figure drawing classes, he basically, he was talking about the rib cage and stuff, the skeleton and the rib cage. And he basically was like, if you ever want to stab somebody in the rib cage, you got to make sure you turn the knife so it's horizontal so it can go between the ribs. Because if you go in vertically, the ribs will probably stop it.
That's good advice.
We're like, okay.
I always wondered what happened to his wife, Helen.
Oh my God. So, okay. So you're going to the Kubert school. I'm assuming getting accepted was kind of the same thing. You had to show a portfolio, talk to Joe and all that stuff.
Yep. And because I lived local, my dad and I just went over there one day with a physical portfolio, a bunch of things I had from high school, stuff I did on my own, stuff I did from that vocational school class that I took. I just remember them being kind of impressed that it wasn't a lot of traced things or like studies of other people and their drawings. It was just stuff I was doing out of my head.
Oh, cool.
I don't think it mattered that it was poorly drawn. What mattered was that I had this passion for, and I've heard this from other people my age that were accepted. I had the passion for just drawing out of my head and being creative and kind of caricaturing things.
Yeah. I mean, that's, my parents, kind of like yours, would like to have a backup plan or go to a regular college. And I discovered the Kubert School through a comic books. They were running ads and comics in the 80s. And I was singularly focused, but my parents wanted to see where I was going to be going for 3 years. And it was only 4.5 hours away. So they drove me up to interview in person as well. So.
And you drove home the same night?
No, my aunt lived up there. So we actually stayed at my aunt's place. Well, she lived, I think this is right. You live there. So maybe this rings a bell. Lake Hapatcong.
Yeah.
So she lived
not
there.
Far from Dover.
Yep. Her and my uncle lived there. So we went and just stayed there and then drove back the next day. So okay. So, you went all 3 years, like you said, you graduated and stuff. What was your first gig when you got out? Or did you have pro work before you graduated? Or?
I was doing stuff that was being published before I graduated, and that's 100% because of Joe. Joe was, I believe he was an editor at DC. Don't ask me for what books, but we were doing backup pages for Sergeant Rock. As assignments, if you were up to date with your work, it was almost like what they call special projects now in the current school. You can be working on something that's not an assignment and still get feedback from instructors if it's something that's going to be published or you have somebody that's interested in it. So I did a bunch of short stories and single page things for Sergeant Rock. Plus, at the same time, what I was really interested in was getting into cartoons.
Sure.
So
I was going to say you had if you were to remember those issues, I got to find it now because I love getting somebody's first work after I meet them.
Okay. I don't remember the number. I don't remember the number of it, but I have it somewhere here in a big box. So they have what's called My Wheels. I think it was called My Wheels back then. And that's where fans could just send in drawings of cars that they did. And they publish a whole page of cars from the fans and they share their address and age and everything.
Yeah.
So while I was at the K school, I had sent in a piece and it got published. I wrote a letter with it saying that I'm going to be graduating a comic book school, the Kubert School from Dover, New Jersey, and would they, be interested in seeing more stuff? I immediately got a script, like a 4-page script.
No shit.
So I think I had started on that the summer after I graduated. I don't think it was while I was still in school, because I was doing other stuff. But yeah, that started immediately.
And you already
And I-
had your DC credits, right? Because the Sergeant Rock backups would have come before this.
Yes, yeah. And I don't know if that would have mattered. The people at Peterson Publishing, cartoons, were just interested in, can you draw cars? And the fact
Right.
that I just finished a 3-year program for sequential storytelling, I guess they thought it was a no-brainer, and I'm glad they accepted me, because I got a bunch of scripts in the beginning, and then they just let me write my own stuff.
Really?
So I had
Like how far after you started like how many jobs do you think you did with cartoons before they were like, okay, you can write your own stuff?
probably a half dozen 3-4 pagers. I mean, for those that don't know the format of the book, it's a bunch of different artists doing short stories.
Mm-hmm.
I think the most amount of pages you'd see in a story, at least back then, might have been 5 pages.
And that was probably Trostley, because
Yeah,
he kind of like
he got the
main
opening.
guy?
He got the opening spot because he had been with them a long time. He was there. Geez, when I was a fanboy, picking up the old issues. So yeah, he would, I guess, get the most pages, and then we would do, as many. I was told to do as many as you can do. And they always paid on time. Peterson Publishing was really good. It was cool getting that Peterson Publishing logo on a check.
Yeah.
Because they just mail physical checks. The editor was really great, and he liked my stuff. I think his name was Dennis Ellefson.
Did you even when you first started, before you were writing your own stuff, was there any feedback like, you got to redraw this or tweak this, or how was that?
I don't even remember showing them roughs. It was weird.
Really?
It was a very loose kind of hippie environment. I mean, I can only imagine what the art studio looked like out in California where they were. It must have been extremely laid back. So yeah, I mean, I would pitch an idea, I think, in a letter, or I forget how I do it. No, phone call. Yeah, I would actually pick up the phone that had a cord on it, and I'd pitch an idea, and we go from there. The only thing I think I had to fix a couple times, it might have gotten a little too sexy or a little too gory. I kind of strayed from the overall feel of the book. It wasn't a big deal to fix.
Did you so were you lettering that stuff as well?
Oh God, yes. Yeah. They would let you letter, and my lettering was pitiful. It wasn't High Eisman's fault.
My lettering's awful.
I did all those assignments, and my lettering was probably as good as it was because I did those lettering assignments.
By the way, our Randy Howell was on the hunt. You apparently worked on 356 and 372 of Sergeant Rock, both one pagers.
No, that probably a battle album. They had these single pages where you pick like a tank or an airplane or something. Yeah, there it is, the Walker Bulldog.
There you go. So I'll have to try and find that.
Yeah, that's old. I was in school then.
Wow. I remember Tom, you weren't there. Were you there the same time as Tom Mandrake?
No, he graduated before me. I did graduate with Tim Truman, if that rings a bell.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. No, the reason I ask is I was talking to Tom, this was years ago, and it's kind of the same thing. What was like your first work, stuff like that. And he mentioned Sergeant Rock, but he said that it's one of two things. He either said that Joe laid it out, because basically, I think he said Joe inked it. Maybe Joe inked it because he said when it was done, he said, kind of like we all do with our first stuff. Oh, it's awful. Don't look at it. But I think he said he did it, and obviously it wasn't that great, but it came out great in the end because I think he said Joe inked it.
Yeah, I have a similar story. I did a 4-pager, same kind of thing. This was sort of a apprenticeship program or whatever they called it. We did get paid, but it wasn't a lot. But anyway, I did a 4-pager, and it was with Easy Company, and I thought it was okay. I mean, the story was true. And then he showed me the pages after he had to fix everything. He did paste ups on top of almost every face. My Sergeant Rock didn't look good. I did some of those side characters okay. But yeah, I know he redid all the Sergeant Rock faces. They kept the bodies.
Now, the real question is, do you still have those originals?
I do not. We didn't get any of those back. I think he just wanted to sort of show me that, I better humble myself and hunker down if I want to do war comics, which I can say now.
Like, I don't.
I really didn't. It was cool to have the opportunity and see how the publishing part of it works for an artist. Just seeing your stuff reproduced, reduced and all that. But that's what we were trained to do by working larger, and it held up well. So I never would have been able to do that without those classes at the Kubrick School.
Sure.
All the preparation that goes into it, all the backstage stuff when you're working on a page.
Did you get so I'm assuming the cartoon stuff you did, you had to mail it all in because there's no scanners and all that stuff. Did you get that art back?
I did. In the very beginning, I was sending original art in the mail all the way out to California, and it always made it. It's probably better mail service then than it is now. But then I figured out, all right, I'm gonna get stats made, and I'm gonna send them stats, and then I'll keep some of the originals. So that worked at some point. Stats are like photocopies. I don't know if you ever heard the term.
Oh yeah.
And you couldn't.
Paid for your own stats?
There was a stat camera that was in the school.
Yeah.
And I don't know if maybe I shot some there too. I forget. But there was this place in town, in where I grew up, that I called it the Stat House. I forget what it was called, but they would do photographic reproductions of things, and you could have stats made. And that's what I ended up doing for a while.
Wow. I can't imagine that wasn't. I honestly have no idea what. Do you even remember what it cost for each one?
It wasn't no idea. It wasn't that crazy.
Really?
Yeah. Oh. I mean, sure, if I would have had big, gigantic prints made, then it gets expensive. But I was just getting black and white. I might even have reduced them to print size. I don't remember. But later, at some point, he sent back a bunch of originals. It's maybe it was near the end when Peterson was going to eliminate the cartoons division. Mm-hmm. Because they kept all their other publications, but they got rid of cartoons in 91. Mm-hmm. And I had already done a pretty long story for the next issue, and then we got the letter. Then we got the pink slip.
Oh, was it not printed then?
No, I keep trying to get the current owners to print it because it was actually part 2 of a story that was in the final issue of Cartoons. And I did get paid for it. Dennis, the editor, made sure I got paid for it, but it never saw print. And I still have those originals. Man, and I own them because I don't even think there's a Peterson Publishing anymore. Not in the same. They don't own anything that I have from back then.
I would think that the new publisher would be like, yeah, let's reprint the first part and then we'll slap in the second part in the next, following issue, and boom.
Yeah, there was this one happened to have been written by one of their writers.
Oh,
which was odd. So there's some conflict with them, and can they even be found? So they didn't want to print it.
Oh, that stinks.
Yeah.
You just need to do a Google search. Say,
Yeah.
oh,
Yeah. I don't know the full details.
yeah.
But he doesn't really print any of the old stuff because I've offered it, you know,
Oh,
and he's not really interested.
oh. So you're doing that. What else? What other type of? Because I assume you were doing more than just that in the 80s and 90s. What else were you doing?
Well, Eclipse Comics was, back to that sort of niche kind of horror Warren type
Mm-hmm.
publisher. Eclipse was putting out things like Tales of Terror and other anthology type, groupings of stories. And that's where I met Chuck.
Oh,
He wrote some horror stuff with cars. And, someone knew that I worked for cartoons at the time. So I was doing semi-realistic, almost like EC, Jack Davis-y stuff for Tales of Terror. So I did a bunch of those and then some smaller independents, but couldn't get into DC, couldn't get into Marvel. And actually, I don't think I even tried with Marvel. I did try a couple times with DC. And they would just send me stuff to ink, and it wasn't working out. So my fallback plan, you had mentioned about your parents wanting you to have a fallback.
oh yeah.
My fallback plan was always sort of the same that Jack Davis had. He was doing advertising work.
Yeah.
So I started hitting up all the North Jersey advertising agencies with a physical portfolio, doing a cold call.
Sure.
Saying I'm a local artist. I graduated this art school, blah, blah, blah. Can I come in and show you samples? Didn't even have to send. You could actually, back then, you could walk in with your book, assuming they could make the time. And that was really easy to do. And I would get work that way. And then some of them would keep me on as regular. So I'd be doing a newspaper ad artwork, or brochures were a really big thing. Like if a bank was going to open up, they'd have a flyer to promote it, filled with cartoons and humor and stuff. Cable TV was just starting to take off. I did a ton of cable TV related promotions, newspaper ads, anything and everything, door hangers.
Oh yeah.
Because cable companies could go door to door and they'd hang it on your door to have artwork on it. Everything was artwork driven.
Yeah.
I thought I was set for the rest of my life, just like Jack Davis was. And then in the 90s, Adobe invented Photoshop and all the other programs. And all of a sudden, the agencies I worked for got rid of their art departments, got rid of half their staff. The glory days of the 80s was over. And, they were all doing their own artwork with Photoshop, or they completely switched over to photograph,
right,
or clip art.
See, I always think, and I still hold by this, but I mean, the only way you'd be able to find out is if a magazine would basically be willing to fork the money and do a test. But because everything today, because I mean, you go to a bookstore, there's still tons of magazines.
Yeah.
And they all have ads, obviously, but they're all the same slick photo looking ad, right?
Look in the newspaper. If there's nothing to catch your eye.
So my thought is, I really think if a company that was advertising in whatever magazine said, you know what, let's do an illustrated ad, let's do a cartoon style, whatever, I think that would stop the reader because it's different now, because everything is so samey. Now, if you flip through, I think that would literally stop the reader and be like, oh, what is this?
Yeah. And I've done that. It's really hard to get, luckily I have some friends from, I have friends from high school that are running businesses still in New Jersey. And, thank God this is one of the good things about Facebook. You can connect with these people and offer your services. And I've done stuff for like the largest collision center in Northern Jersey because I was in Cub Scouts with the guy. But for a couple of years in a row, we did a bunch of full color, full page newspaper ads. And these things were stunning. I mean, they were poster worthy. and it did really well for him. But with every advertising client that I get to do that with, there seems to be a window of opportunity or a shelf life for it. It's not like you're going to do it forever.
Right.
So I remember with the collision center, it might have been a year and a half, and then especially in the newspaper audience, which also isn't the same as it used to be, they get kind of bored with it, because it does it is the same approach.
Right.
Although, albeit it's better than photographs, but, so we had a good run with it. And occasionally I still get to do stuff like that, but it's not as easy. The good news is I can put the whole thing together myself as if I were one of these gigantic advertising agencies that I used to work for back in the 80s and mid 90s.
Yeah.
Because I have some of those other skills in design, Illustrator, Photoshop, I can take my artwork, design an ad, because I've done so many ads with other people that I know the main components of a basic ad. And, I'm able to put the whole thing together. All I have to do is call whatever newspaper it is or magazine and know where to send the file. You just email them the file.
Yeah. Yeah.
I wish there was more of that. Please, if you have a hint on how to do that.
Oh no, I'm right there with you, because I've done, the majority of my work is, comic books and stuff, but I have a section of the website called advertising where I've done some stuff outside of comics, but I was hired because they wanted a comic book feel for, for the work, and I'm same thing, I'm like, let's do more of this. I've done stuff for a construction company. The longest running thing I did, which was, I want to say over the course of 12 years, and there were maybe 2 years where they skipped, but it was for an ad agency in Santa Barbara, California, and their client was the Idaho Potato Commission. So if you've ever seen commercials for Idaho potatoes and the big red truck and all that, like I said, for about in the span of 12 to 13 years, I think I did 10 years worth. It was always around May of the year. They contact me and I did comic book style stuff, but it was always business to business. So nobody would see it except unless you were in the business, and it was for trade shows and stuff and stuff like that, and it's probably been 6 years since I did that. And, the first time it went away, cause I never got like you say, you don't want to get used to it cause it could stop anytime. And like, I did it for like 3 or 4 years straight and I never expected it. But then around, say, this time of year, if I got an email saying, hey, we're doing stuff again, are you available? Blah, blah, blah. It'd be great. But then if I didn't get an email, I might send them one just to touch base, or they would, politely just email me and say, hey, we just want to let you know, Idaho Potato basically is going in a different direction this year, and it was like, okay, yeah, I get it. But then like a year or two goes by and I'd get an email going, they want to go back. so yeah, I get it. And
over
the
last, maybe last 10 years or so, I've had some luck in a sort of a different market. Rock and roll gig posters, for bands.
I saw those on your website and they're very impressive.
Thank you. It's a very limited edition thing and you really got to get in with people. And if an art director didn't contact me out of the blue back when I had a DeviantArt website, I never would have met this guy. But he periodically is able to arrange for artists to do these gig posters. So
that's cool.
I've done maybe a half dozen, a dozen with him. And it's really great exposure. Didn't pay a lot, but they do send you an allotment of posters so that you can sell.
Oh, that's cool.
But it's all the bands I'm into. The most famous one would have been Metallica.
No shit, really?
The biggest campaign for me. I did one Metallica thing for a show out in California.
Oh, that's cool.
You also had what, Alice Cooper and Meatloaf's band, and what else?
ZZ Top was is another one that's popular. A lot of people steal that one.
Really? What do you mean steal it? Like,
well, I see it. I see things online like T-shirts made out of it.
no shit.
Or it's on a metal like sign that
Yeah.
they sell at flea markets. That kind of stuff. So someone must be ratting them out, because, not me. I don't care, but management doesn't know about that stuff, and they must find out, because usually it gets pulled.
Yeah.
I saw some shirts being sold in Amazon, and they were pulled immediately.
Wow.
I didn't sell those rights. I know I didn't, and this was a while ago anyway. This is probably the mid '90s when I did the ZZ Top piece, but it still circulates. They use it on their site all the time. ZZ, the band.
They're still around.
Well, one guy passed.
I was going to say, yeah, because I mean, I'm with you.
They still tour. I see tour stuff. They must have a replacement. I mean, hell,
Are
Rush.
they still rocking those beards?
Yeah.
Wow.
But the thing that ties in most of my gig poster work is it's automotive related.
Yeah.
There's always some kind of car in it. And I'm fine with that.
No, you do them great. Hey, real quick, with the general delivery here, this is a 2-pager.
Yeah.
Is this the only one you've done with them, or have you done more, or was this just a one-off?
With the General Lee, or with
yeah.
That's the only, that was a one-off, because he said there's going to be, I don't remember his exact words, but he said there's going to be a Dukes of Hazzard issue.
Yep. Yeah, because it's throughout the whole thing.
Yeah. So I think everybody kind of did something related to the show.
So when you write your own stuff, are you real formal? Will you actually type up your script panel by panel? Like, how do you go about it when you write your own stuff?
When I do, I usually thumbnail out the images first, and then I add the dialogue second.
Yep.
And I will write little tiny miniature letters, traditional, next to my thumbnails. I don't think I type it out. No. My typing it out is when I when I'm lettering it in Illustrator, and then I kind of change things around here and there. I don't have to submit a formal script or anything, and they're short stories anyway. I like the short story format. I've been doing that a long time.
When you start drawing it, do you go right to the board, or do you do it? Because some guys work on, like, I'm starting. I used to go right to the board, but now I switched. I think it's just because I get bored. So now I'm doing my roughs on copy paper, and then I'll scan them in and print it back out on Bristol and real light blue, and then ink it that way. Do you go right to the board?
No, I don't go. I have, there's several, trying to explain this to students. They roll their eyes. They don't want to go through this much trouble, but I probably do 2 sets of thumbnails. There's thumbnail 1 for a page, and then I'll do another thumbnail about the same size. And they're literally, I think I have it measured out to 3.5 inches tall.
Yep.
I draw in enough detail every panel on that page on the thumbnail so I can blow it up to my working size, and then I put a piece of tracing paper on that. So my thumbnail is now going to become my second to last rough, I guess.
Yeah.
Depending on how tight it comes out and how happy I am with it, sometimes I rescan it and manipulate some of the panels, sort of rescaling them in Photoshop.
Yeah.
Instead of me redrawing them, it's easier for me just to kind of compile a new full-size rough. And that becomes my lightbox rough. And old school lightbox, I'll just trace it onto good paper.
Yeah. You're just using, because you're doing ink wash most of the time, right?
Not always.
Okay.
it depends how it's going to print. Like in cartoons, because it's black and white, I kind of, if you look at the old stuff, when they first took it over, I wasn't doing the ink wash. Later on, I started doing it.
Yeah.
And the original Peterson Publishing cartoons, I was doing ink wash all the time. So I think I probably had a longing to do that again.
Oh, okay. That's cool.
But I like digitally coloring over ink wash too. So it's,
Oh, okay.
I'm full circle. I'm doing some stuff with Chuck that is, it's all traditional, including an ink wash. And then I digitally color on top of it.
Is that how you did because you did everything on seven Deadly Sinners, right? Coloring everything?
Yeah, that's how the pages, the interior pages, the cover is behind me.
Yeah.
The wraparound cover, and that is all traditional. You remember Dr. Mark Dies?
Oh yeah. You use dye still?
Yeah. Yeah.
You got good at them. I haven't used dyes probably since I used them a little bit for commissions after I graduated. So I'm going to guess around 94, I probably stopped. Because those things are unforgiving.
Yeah, no, I love them. I always did. It worked well with my really caricatured stuff, the vivid colors. Yeah. But what I do now is I shouldn't say I'd work 100% with the dyes. After I finish the piece, I then scan it, and then I manipulate the colors. Some of them I take the garishness out of.
Yeah.
That the dyes are known for.
Sure.
Because the thing behind me, it probably looks like a lot of earth tones. That's because I desaturated it.
That's a print behind you. That's not the original.
No, that's not the original. That's a print.
Okay.
Yeah.
How big's their original? Is it close to that or?
No, I didn't work that big. It's probably a little less than half.
Yeah. Yeah. What are your, since you said that at the Kubert School, how long have you been teaching there now?
I think this is my 22nd year.
No way. So that's 2004.
Yeah. Early 2000s.
What got you into doing that? Like, did you approach them or?
No. Immediately after I graduated, Mike Chen used to keep calling me.
Really?
Yeah. And I wasn't ready. I'm better at like public speaking, but I'm still, I'm not a public speaker, and I just didn't want to get in front of people. And, I was still young in my career. I just gotten out of school, and I always felt that if I was going to teach one day, I didn't want to have to really put any work into it. I just wanted to go by instinct because of my experience.
Yeah.
I didn't want to have to look in a book to figure out how to do a lesson plan. I didn't want to have to ask advice on how to put that syllabus together. Yeah. I wanted just to show what I did and explain how I did it. And that when I finally did agree to do it, that's what Joe said. That's all he wanted us to do.
Yeah.
It was before it was, I'm trying to remember if it was accredited when I started. It probably was.
It was accredited when I went there.
Was it? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So they had requirements, but I was never told to change anything. I laid out a good lesson plan, that kind of helped you grow. I just put common sense into it.
And you primarily teach inking?
I do now. I was going in for 3 days. I don't know if you know, the school has moved. It's in a different town in Jersey now. Nice building.
Yeah, it looks good.
They got rid of some of their classes, and they're really focusing on comics. So there's no more humor caricature class, which I used to teach. There's no more layout class, which was the closest thing they had to an advertising class.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
And I don't know what it was called when you were there. I don't even
Based
remember.
Up in mechanicals.
Yeah. And we weren't doing that, but so I kind of lost some of my classes. Everybody did. So I'm down to 1 day, and right now it's just inking. But I've taught.
They still do the 10 classes a week, 2 a day?
Yeah, morning and afternoon. Yep.
Yeah. Okay, so that hasn't changed. How do you like the new building? I haven't been there yet. I want to get up there.
It's a really cool location. It's a grand old, like, if you can imagine one of those buildings in Dover, one of the biggest ones in town.
Yeah.
Imagine that all fixed up. and they're having classes in there. That's kind of what this is.
Oh,
Of course, Madison's a much nicer town.
is that closer for you or no?
No, it's longer.
Oh,
Yeah, I live north of Dover now. I don't live in Denville anymore. But
okay.
it's doable.
When you started teaching there in 2002, was the school still the big hole, or did they already chop the back off and have that CVS?
They did not chop it yet. They chopped it when I was there teaching.
Okay. Yes, I did.
And we were relocated to a temporary building for, I don't know, I'm going to say a year.
I think that's what Mike Chen told me, because I did visit it in 2016. I want to say I was doing a convention in Jersey and went by and did went to lunch with Mike Chen and did a portfolio review, and just, that was the first time I saw the school since it was, cut in half basically.
Mm-hmm.
And just walking in, and I remember you'd walk up the steps, you'd go in the front doors, and then there'd be double doors, and it was the auditorium,
Right.
And obviously that was gone. And then I remember, I would take a right and then take a left down that side of the building, and all the way in the back was my first year class. And then it was like, I thought they only cut the school. So the school is basically, the footprint of the school is basically a square. That's what I told people.
Yeah. You used to be able to walk all the way around it.
Yeah.
Before.
And I thought they cut it like in half. They cut like 2/3 off the back of that school.
Yeah. I don't know how crowded it was when you were there. I've heard stories from instructors, about how busy it was, but it was a lot of wasted space. And
well, I mean, we had, so when I went there, all the first year classes were on the right-hand side as you're looking at the school. They were all on the right-hand side, and we had 5 classrooms, A through E. The second year classes were on the left-hand side, and then third year was upstairs on the 3rd floor. And Andy and Adam had studios in the basement when I was there.
Yeah, I think at the most, since I've been there, there's only been 2, maybe 3 first year classes. You had 5, huh?
We had 105 students in first year.
Wow.
In second year, like maybe 70 of us came back.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe 60, because in third year, I believe we graduated close to 40.
Yeah, much bigger numbers than now.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do you think people aren't applying to the Kubert school because there's too much access to stuff online that they don't see a value in it, or?
That is a good question. I certainly don't know, and administration doesn't share their thoughts too much. I think it's a combination of everything. It could be the way the industry is. It could be the availability of training online. I mean, you can find whatever you need to know. I mean, the thing you don't get though is learning the disciplines, because you're kind of forced to do it. You're in a school environment.
Yeah.
And if you remember, I'm sure you do, just being in a studio setting with other students, you learn so much just from seeing what everybody else is doing.
Oh yeah. It pushes you too. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, pick the best guy in the class and try to keep up with him. It was great. I lived at home, I missed out on doing the whole dorm life. I don't know if I would have survived that. So maybe it was better I stayed at home. But that's another thing that teaches you stuff, going away to school and taking care of yourself for the first time.
You missed it for 1 year because, at least when I went, the dorms were only available for freshmen. And then after that, you were on your own. So like I lived in the Clinton house
right
for my first year. And then in my second year, 2 of my buddies and myself rented the top of a duplex, and then third year, one of the guys didn't come back, and one of the guys lived in Jersey as well. And I think he was just like, you know what, I'll just do the commute. It was a long commute, like 45 minutes, but he was like, I'll just do that for third year. So I ended up renting a room in a house with a father and his like kid, basically. He was
Yeah.
and I rented a bedroom and then, shared the bath and the kitchen and stuff. But I hear you. I think, because I've been asked that too. I think it is a lot to do with YouTube and the accessibility of just being able to learn stuff online. I still tell people at conventions when they ask, you've got to have really good discipline to do that, and
And you have to be really gifted if you're going to get work.
Yeah.
The regular artist who's more fanboy than artist isn't going to watch something on YouTube and then go out and get work for DC.
Right. Well, that's what I'm saying. You have to be really disciplined. And you're right. It's not just watching one video. I mean, because there's schools that do digital stuff, like the Noman School from California and stuff. You can do digital classes. But I think being there, like you said, is better because of the discipline, the atmosphere, learning from other people. But I tell you what, and this was a negative that I had to kind of talk my parents out of and make them believe in it, is the fact that it's not a degreed program. And
Right.
basically I would tell them, well, to do this, you don't have to have a degree.
That's
But
right.
the problem is, and I ran into this around 2010. I met the head of an art department at UNC Charlotte, and he was like, "Oh, have you ever thought about teaching?" And I told him flat out, I said, "Well, I can't. I don't have a degree." And he was like, "Oh," he goes, "Well, we can do an adjunct.
Right.
You don't need one." And I was like, "Okay." So I did that for a few semesters, and I'll be honest, I really enjoyed it. Now, I didn't enjoy the pay was crap because I was an adjunct, but the experience in teaching was fun. I enjoyed it. But even then, I mean, this is, like I said, 2010, it's like 16 years ago. So I was like, 40, 41. And he was like, "Well, you can always go back to school to get your," and I'm like, "I'm not doing that." I flat out was like, "I'm not doing that. I have no interest in doing that." And I told him, and he agreed, but there, he didn't run the school. Obviously, there's nothing he could do about it. But I told him flat out, I said, "I think it's a bunch of crap that I have to have a bachelor's degree or a master's to be able to teach," because I was teaching sequential art, to teach that when you can just look at this time, I was in the business for, 20 some years, and you can just look at it. And then I would have students that, to take my class, they had to pass, like, they had prerequisites like, drawing 1 and drawing 2 and stuff like that. And I had some my classes were only like 15 kids. And there were some in there that just, I literally couldn't imagine how they could have passed drawing 1. They were so bad.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, and I'm like, but that teacher is a full-time staff member because they have a bachelor's degree, and they're passing this. So I was just like, forget, I'm not doing it.
Yeah, it's weird. Maybe one day that'll change. I know some professors at the local college, and there's always talk about starting certain programs, in our fields.
Yeah.
And they're just gonna, the dream is they're just gonna look at our work history.
Right.
And the other stuff doesn't matter.
Well, and that's why the Hubert School, and I still think to this day, won't go, and I applaud them for it. I'm not saying it's a negative. They won't go through the process so they could be to the point where they could do even an associate's degree, because that would knock out half their staff, because they don't have degrees. Because that was the whole pitch. Joe even told my parents, he's like, our teachers, he goes, we have a few full-time teachers, but most of our teachers do this part-time because their real job is doing what we're teaching
Right.
the students to do.
That's the way it was when I went.
Yeah. Yeah. Was Mike Chen, and was he, when did Mike Chen graduate? I thought he was there.
He graduated he was in my class.
Oh, he
81.
was. Okay, that's what I thought. Yeah. Yeah.
Yep.
So you never got to experience Mike as a teacher.
No. I knew him. I knew him as a classmate, and then he never left.
I know
he's still there.
He's retired.
I don't see him. I don't know what days he's in, but
I thought he was retired.
Oh, I hear he's teaching one of the classes. I hear students talking about him. He must.
Well, he's okay. So when I was there and all through the 90s, and I think this is what I mean, he was on staff teaching.
Yeah. He had an office.
But now I
don't think he has an office, but I don't know.
That's what I meant. I think he posted that. This was a few years ago. I think he said he's retired from that, but like you, he still teaches like a class or something. So, but he was, now I never had him as a teacher. My friends did. And he was a rather uptight, by the rules type of guy.
Oh, who would have guessed?
Yeah, but come on. Was he like that as a student?
Oh my gosh. I owe him an apology for those years. You just reminded me. We used to tease him all the time, because absolutely everything was by the book, and there's nothing wrong with that.
There's not.
I was kind of uptight with it too. I kind of, because of my upbringing, I wasn't one of the goof off kids.
Well, I mean, I wasn't a goof off kid, but the only teacher besides Mike that if you showed up, I don't even remember if there was a grace period, like, oh, class is at 8:30. Oh, you're 5 minutes late. I don't know. But besides Mike, and I only know this because, like I said, friends had him as a teacher. The only other teacher I had that if you showed up late would say, go down to the office and get basically a late thing or whatever was Joe. He was the only other one.
Yeah.
All the other teachers basically would just look at you and be like, is it that hard? Is it really that hard to get here on time? Sit down.
Yeah, I think we were all afraid of him, and we just made sure we were there a little early.
Well, Joe, yeah.
Joe.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, everybody. Like, nobody really showed up late to Joe's class. Joe, I turned in an assignment for Joe, and I remember it was on duotone paper, duoshade, whatever. And it was like, I don't know if he wrote it or I can't remember, but it was like a 2-pager. And I remember the first page had a really big panel on it. So it wasn't a splash, but it was like 3 panels, 3 insets and a big panel. And it was basically like King Kong with a huge python like wrapped around him or something. And it was early on, and I think it was second year. So I didn't know how Joe was as a teacher yet. And it was one of those things. I just had to get it done. So I got it done, and he could tell, and he just reamed you. He did. He was like, is this the best you can do? And I was like, well, no. And he's like, I expect the best, blah, blah, blah. Oh yeah. So, but that was Joe, and Joe was great. I loved him.
Adam and Andy would tell you all about it.
Oh yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, I knew those guys a little bit because I would go pester them down when I was in third year, down in their basement studios. But yeah. Well, Joe told me a story about Andy where it was one of the times where I took something up to Joe and I was having problems with it. So, he put tracing paper over it, pulls out a brush pen, which I never even knew of at the time. And he just inks it in like, no time flat and makes it gorgeous, And I was like, oh my God, that's amazing, And then he tells me a story how he did that with Andy one time. I think it was before Andy went there, and he wasn't thinking about it because the aftermath was, I think he said Andy didn't really draw for a while because he was just like, well, look how quick he did. I can't do that.
Yeah.
And Joe was like, yeah, I just, I I've been doing it so long and blah, blah, blah. You just kind of forget, and you kind of have to step back and be like, don't worry. I've been doing this for, 40 plus years, 50 years, whatever, if you keep practicing or whatever, you'll get there. That type of thing.
Do you remember Telegraphics in the building?
Oh yeah.
All right. So, they were doing PS magazine for the Army.
Mm-hmm.
I guess they worked things out because Joe and Andy and Adam they all worked together on that, plus other people.
Yeah.
When Joe wanted to do other things near the end of that run, both he and Andy handpicked me to ink Joe's pencils. So for 9 years, I was inking Joe stuff for PS. For PS, yep.
Oh my God, dude! If you have any of that stuff, scan it and email it. I'd love to see it.
I do not.
Oh,
not the stuff where I have. At the very end, I got a stack of pages, just my inks, but it wasn't on any of the three of them. So,
I didn't mean if you had any originals. I just meant copy. You don't even have copies of the stuff you did?
I definitely have copies. Yeah.
Oh, that's what I was talking about. If you have copies, scan a few of that. I would love to see it.
Yeah.
All right. Well, last question. What are your primary inking tools? And I know you're probably I get that question and I could easily say I'll use anything that works, but I still have two primary. So what would you say are your primary?
The B12 dipping pen. You might call it a bowl point.
Yep.
There's two quills that I kind of go back and forth with. Oh God, I haven't looked at the numbers in so long. 207, 307. I don't know, but they're real fine quills, also dipping pens.
Yep.
After all the line art's done, I only use a brush these days just to fill in blacks and maybe thicken up some lines. And that could be a 2, it could be a 4.
What type of brush are you using these days? Because they're hard to come by.
It doesn't matter. I actually have, you mentioned one of those
brush pens.
Brush pen kind of thing. It's a Japanese brand. I don't know the name of it, but it has a reservoir that supposedly you can refill. I don't refill it. I just keep dipping it. So, because I like the point. The point never goes away. It's indestructible. I'm not going to spend $40, $50 on an expensive number 2 if they even sell them anymore, and only have it last a year. This thing, I just put the cap on it, and it's great. And you can still get a point with it if you do want to feather a line.
But because you're dipping it, so wait, what type of ink are you using? Are you just using Higgins Black Magic, or what do you use?
Yeah.
So because you're using that and you're dipping it, even though you have a cap on it, I assume you rinse it in water and stuff, right?
Yeah. I soak it before I put the cap on it.
Okay.
Probably filled with mold. It adds to the effect.
It adds texture.
Yeah. But yeah, so I mean, obviously, when it does stop working, I go get another one. But
sure,
I don't remember the last time I bought one. I keep using the same one.
I'm going to say it begins with a K. I'm blanking on it now. Damn it.
Yeah, I'm not in my studio. I'm in a different location.
I have one.
It's got a gray sort of flexible, almost like you can squeeze it along.
Oh, I know exact. That's a Pentel.
Yeah, I think it does. But yeah, there's also Japanese lettering on it.
Yeah. No, I know what you're talking about. Yeah. I know exactly what you're talking about. It's a gray body. Mm-hmm. That's the thing you replace. No, it's not that.
No, not that one. And it's got a dark. The cap is darker.
Rich, it's the type where, in fact, hold on, because I know exactly where mine is. Hold on.
I know I've got one around here somewhere that's got the reservoir built in that you can refill.
Yeah, you can dip it and actually make it suck ink back into it. Maybe that's how you fill it. I don't know.
Yeah. Okay, so this is what you're talking about, but it's not gray, but you squeeze this part to get the ink down,
Yes.
And then once it's empty, you unscrew this and you put a new one on.
Oh, is that how they work?
Yeah.
Okay.
So this is a Pilot, and even though it has Japanese lettering on it, on the body you can't see it because it's in the same color, but it says Pilot. But you're talking about, it's a Pentel and it's a gray body. This is gray.
Yeah.
The same thing. You squeeze it to get the ink.
Right.
But I never thought of that, of just because the point is really nice.
Yeah, it doesn't split apart like a brush does. It's always going to, as long as you don't drop it point first.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's always going to maintain that point. And you said about squeezing it to suck the ink into it. I do that just instinctively sometimes. So that's probably another way that I'm keeping it from drying out. Maybe I'm actually refilling it sometimes, but I'm sort of dipping it and using whatever's in the reservoir at the same time.
That's cool.
Yeah, it seems to work. I used to do everything with a brush, and I'd have to go so slow. And it was actually one of the Kuberts who said to me, "Oh, we don't really use brushes anymore. We do like our dad. We do it all with dipping pens, and then we just use a brush of some kind to fill in the spot blacks or to thicken up a line." And I started doing that, and I'm like kicking myself. I should have been doing that forever, because it's less labor intensive for me, and I don't have to think as much because the width of the pen does the work for you. You don't always have to sort of press on it unless you're trying to get it a little thicker. But I learned that if I let the pen do the work, it's easier than using a brush.
Yeah, I used to be 100% brush. And part of the reason was I was sharing, I learned with the brush even before I went to the Kubert school. I got How to Draw Comics the Marvel Way. I saw a brush. I'm like, oh. So I would, I didn't know anything about brushes at 15, but I would just buy some. And, Marcus says Kuretake. That is a certain type, but that's not the squeeze type. And I would just practice with a brush when I was a teenager. And then when I went to the Kubert school in first year, High Eisman in his lettering class, we would obviously have to draw stuff to letter. And I remember doing a splash page with Spider-Man, and my lettering was awful, but he was like, "You ink this?" And I said, "Yeah." And he goes, "With what?" I said, "A brush." And he goes, "That's really good. When did you just start using a brush when school started, back in the fall?" I go, "No, I've been goofing around with the brush since I was 15, but I didn't know what I was doing. I would just pull lines. I would just sit down with blank paper and just pull lines to get used
to. But you had a head start. If it weren't for
right.
some the behind the scenes pages in the Warren books, I didn't even know there was inking. I thought it was all done with magic marker.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't have access to anything else. And then when I saw those things in the Warren books, it's like, oh, okay. And that was right around the time, when I started looking into the Kubert school.
Oh, okay.
But I did not have any traditional inking experience before going to the Kubert school. I didn't know what to use.
Yeah. Well, I didn't know anything about dip pens. Like, now, kind of like you, I switched over and I do the whole page with a 102, and then I take the brush to fill in blacks and beef up line weights.
Mm-hmm.
And that's it. And I like doing the rendering with a 102 pen because I can do the exact same rendering with the brush, but it has a different feel. The pen has a harder feel to it, and to me, a more illustrative feel. And the brush, obviously softer. And with what I'm doing, I rather have the harder type feel. So that's why I'm using a 102 instead of a brush. Because, growing up, I used to love, guys like Joe Sennett, and he was all brush, that soft feather look.
Sure.
So, but anyhow, I did want to show one thing. I found it, and it's that Jack Davis cover I was telling you about.
Okay.
So let's see if you've ever seen this one. If you haven't, I'll just say you're welcome.
It did not sound familiar.
Have you seen this one?
No, that's an old EC cover.
Yep. And it's not letting me blow up
zoom
on
in
it for some reason.
There you go.
Yeah. Well, I can't blow up on it, which is odd, but the This was from Heritage Auction, so where they do the nice high res scans.
Sure.
So like you can see all the feathering and stuff, and I was just like, this was all I knew of Jack Davis was humor stuff, and I saw this, and I was like, holy crap!
He did some insane pages for Mad that were so illustrated. I mean, I remember a boxing piece where this guy's swinging up with his arm into a punch and he's hitting another guy's head, almost like Rock'em Sock'em Robots, and the guy's neck is stretching, but the anatomy is all crazy cross-hatched, much more than this example here. This obviously this was relying on a lot of color. But the black and white piece I'm talking about, or anything illustrative that he did that was going to be printed in black and white, the pen work is just no one does it anymore. Everything now is digitally colored, at least in comics, and I don't think inkers want to take the time because someone's just going to do a painterly digital treatment on top of it and bury beautiful cross hatching and hatching and all the little intricacies of texture. You have to have a real good communication with your colorist, which is why I like to color my own stuff.
Sure.
I've learned how not to bear. If I prefer to still spend a lot of time on the inking, there's a lot more effort put into the inking, and I don't do what's considered a traditional digital coloring treatment because it's too, you're rendering with your color and you're also rendering with your inks. It doesn't work that way for me. It's one or the other.
Right.
And I still enjoy doing it with the inks when I can. And then when it's colored, it's just got to be, it can't be too dark.
Yep. No, I hear you. I want to answer a question. Time-lapse videos Chris asked about me doing more time-lapse. Probably, I actually inked something today over a different artist just as a warm-up, and I recorded it, so I'll be posting that as a time-lapse. I'll try and get back to it. And yeah, man, this was great. I could talk to you forever about different stuff. Oh yeah, there you go.
If you want to see Jack Davis stuff, nicely reproduced, IDW does these. This is one of their artist edition things.
Oh wow.
So
that's great.
Got a ton of Jack Davis stuff in here.
So those are the big format pages?
Well, I mean, this is oversized, but they also do much larger.
That's the artisan edition, I think. So was that like $40, $45?
Yeah, but IDW's been running a lot of sales in the last couple of years.
Well, no, what I mean is, so IDW does the artist edition ones that are the big hardcovers, original art size. But then they also do a smaller version. It's still bigger.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing. So like I've got a mix of both because those things aren't cheap.
Yeah, right.
That's Jack.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's not original art size. That's slightly smaller.
No, it's probably 14 inches or so.
It's like 11 by 14, I think.
Yeah.
Around there.
Yeah, they work.
You can get these on sale for about $20 normally.
20
on sale, yeah.
Yeah, that's less than the big gigantic ones. The original art back then they worked so big, and it just gave
twice up.
Yeah, so much room to be illustrators.
Yeah, well, that's when I was going to the school, Joe was working on Tor for Epic. The Epic division of Marvel, his new Tor stuff that came out as like 3 8.5 by 11 size, issues. And then they collected it and he was drawing that stuff big and he would bring it in and it was just like, holy crap. So, but guys, we're going to get going. Aaron Lepresti Graybeards starts at 5. So you can go watch him and Dan Lawless and David Williams and Gary Martin draw some stuff. And we'll be back next week. And Rich will be back next week.
I will.
And what?
I will.
Yeah. Checks in the mail, Rich. Deal with it. Man.
Well, that last one bounced.
Well, that's the way it goes, Rich. That's the way it goes. And Bob, thank you again for joining us. So, and everybody go check out 7 Deadly Sinners. The link is being posted and The link for Bob's website is in the description below, so you can check out his work there. And there you go, guys. And of course, go check out Lilith, Infernal Conflict, the graphic novel Dennis and I are doing. I started a new page today, over halfway through the book. We're going to watch the trailer, and we'll see you guys next week. Until then, bye-bye, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye.